Doing fantastic. Busy day so far, or not too bad?
Yeah, pretty busy actually. I was up early, so squeezing
Oh,
this
there.
in today.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, are you based in Calgary?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Oh, awesome. There you go. Yeah, you're only about an hour away from us. That's not too far.
Yes, I know. I'll be there next week. That's what I was, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna be in Canmore?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have so many Albertans right now. I was just telling someone today. I was like, I think we have 4 or 5 Albertans right now who are just crushing it. So let's dive in. Let's start by getting you to introduce yourself to everyone, who you
Sure.
are and what you do, and then we'll dive into some of the specifics of your journey so far.
Yeah, sure. So I am a certified holistic nutritionist, and I specialize in working with people with autoimmune disease specifically. And I also use like a nervous system first kind of approach. So a couple
Right.
of different things going on in there. And
I love.
I have oh, go ahead.
No, no, that's awesome. No, keep going.
I have been at this since 2020 is actually when I started my business. So it's
Okay.
been quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, but I was kind of just winging it, so to speak, and
Yeah, totally.
figuring, trying to do things. It's changed so much even in that time space, right? Like a lot of things
Totally.
that worked then don't work now. And then I took some time off from my business to work on my master's. And then I came back and was like, wow, the landscape is very different.
Yeah,
So,
things I feel like
yeah.
social media stuff changes so quickly. It's like every 6 to 12 months, we're kind of like reiterating strategy just because, I mean, social media is evolving so quickly. Let's start by taking people through the journey a little bit of like where a business was at before joining CCI so that we can kind of walk them through a little bit of like, okay, what you were working on, etc. So, yeah, give it a snapshot of like what business was like right before working with us.
Yeah. So before working with you guys, I had one client that I was working with
Right,
like one to one. And previous to that, I had done a lot of group coaching when that was really big, kind of like
right.
in 2020, 2021. And then I kind of just, to be honest, was relying on people to find me for this high ticket coaching. Like a lot of people would listen to me on a podcast or, I
Right.
spoke with a naturopath and they heard me speak and then they'd come find me. So it was not predictable in any way. I created a lot of like recipes for people like with autoimmune disease. So then my audience had kind of come to expect things to be like lower ticket. Like I sold meal plans and, things like that. But I offered this higher coaching, but I didn't really actively advertise it. And so
Right.
people, if I asked them like, hey, are you looking for support? They were like, what? No, I just want like the recipe or the freebie or like whatever.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so I wasn't really in a position even though I had an audience, like I had about 7,000 followers,
Sure.
they were not really primed to purchase like higher
Yeah.
ticket coaching.
Right. Right. 100%. Now, I'm always curious about the answer to this question. What made you decide to join CCI? Because obviously we're not the cheapest around the block to work with.
Mhm.
I often say we're not cheap and our results aren't either, but it's scary sometimes to trust a business mentor, especially when there's just so many options. What for you anyways? What was it that caused you to like decide to take that leap and I mean, frankly, take that risk in business?
Mhm. Yeah, because to be honest, before I did work with two other business coaches like over the years, but like lower costs, like $1,000, $3,000. So, and it helped a little bit. Like, okay, I maybe targeted this area of my business or this area, but I felt like I had kind of been like, just sort of like wandering around, not really sure. And I was like, I need to work with someone who can help like with all areas of the business. Like
Yeah.
I already knew how to coach, but I needed somebody to help with all the different areas, not just
Yes.
singular. So I don't know. Again, I was just looking on Instagram, so of course your ad was pushed to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I was like, in a lot of your stuff, I was like, I feel like he lives near me. Like I feel like I know those mountains. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna reach out. And one of the things that I liked is like that you guys didn't promise like crazy things because to me it's like I mean, I know as I can't promise anybody anything. It's a
Yeah.
50-50 relationship for sure. And then also just it wasn't pushy at all. So like I'm very nervous system first. So if somebody gives me like a vibe that it's like inauthentic or they're just trying to make a sale, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. So
Yeah.
you didn't
100%.
give off that vibe.
Great. Love to hear that. Love to hear that. Now, and I know you mentioned this specifically. I want to talk about your first little bit in the program and kind of like how we had to kind of go through a little bit of time of working on things before the results came. Because yes, a lot of people will jump on and watch this live or the replay. By the way, folks, if you're watching this, you can comment any questions you have down below. But a lot of them will be watching it and be like, wow, she has this great success. But a lot of times people don't see the journey to getting there.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about that first because we're going to get to the fun stuff, the success and the results and the strategies that work well. But talk us through a little bit of like maybe some of the doubts and like the hard parts where like at the beginning in the program it maybe wasn't a crazy success right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. So because I already had, a bit of an audience and stuff like that, we did need to do some work behind the scenes because as I said, like my audience was not primed for that. I had like a Facebook group that was kind of dead. I
Yeah.
had an email list that like again, they were expecting free meal plans and recipes.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like I myself was kind of rebranding the business and I needed like support to do that. Like I said, to offer this one-on-one coaching. So we did a lot of work around like the avatar. I really did not like this part. It's very hard to get really crystal clear on who you're
Yeah.
talking to.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know. Like, like you come in and then your coach says, like, okay, so who are you talking to? And you're like, well, I think this person. They're like, do they like this or this? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that part took quite a long time, like going through it. And at first I was like, I don't even know how this is going to help me. Like, you have all those doubts in
For
your head
sure.
for sure. But over time, like the more that you like refine that, like sort of like, no, actually, I don't want to talk to this person. I want to talk to this person. You kind of get clear as you go through some of the other steps as to who that person really is that you're talking to. And it's scary for a lot of people because like autoimmune disease for me is like a huge, broad,
Big. Yeah.
but it's like I had to like really niche down in there. And that means you do lose some people, but then you are speaking directly to certain people. And that's where you're actually going to get sales. Right. So
Yeah.
I think I was scared to do that, but that was definitely something, the first thing that we had to work on.
For sure.
And then, yeah, like you have to, prime your Instagram profile. So that was like something I didn't have like my story up there,
Yes.
just like having some of those pieces set up. So we did that. We kind of worked on a plan to revive the Facebook group, started sending out like some teasers to the email list, like, hey, this is
Yeah.
coming, there's some changes. And then we kind of just did like a soft launch, like a 3-day kind of soft launch to them. And in the meantime, I was also working on like prepping a little bit of like messaging, which is also extremely hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you think you're doing a good job, and then somebody like says something, and you're like, I have no idea what to say back to them, right? So,
For sure.
um, so my coach and I did a lot of work on that for sure, and like
Yeah.
just having that real time, like, okay, I don't know what to say to this person.
Totally.
Really important because you're just kind of like it is a matter of like losing the sale or not, right? Like, so it's
Right.
actually more important than you think. And of course it's all practice, so it's fine. But we did all of this practice on my current audience. So this was before I even got like new people. So I just kind of like
Right.
went
Starting to
through,
practice. Yeah. With what
yeah,
you already have.
and was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we've never connected before," but
Yeah.
and then I
Exactly.
would sort of practice, yeah. And then like the content, same thing. Like I feel like every time I submitted, I'd be like, "Okay, I planned out all my content for the week," and then my coach would be like, "You're not speaking to a specific person," and I'd be like, "Ah." So that took me a long time as well
Yeah.
to really like get clear on. But now it's like so easy for me. It's like every time I send it to her, she's just like, "Yep, good to go." Whereas like there was a lot of, back and forth in the beginning.
And what I'm hearing multiple times here, which I really love to hear, is that when people come to CCI, they get paired up like with
Mhm.
the one-on-one. Is you've kind of been hinting at that, but you've been getting a lot of feedback that wasn't sugarcoating things, right?
Yeah.
It was very much this isn't specific enough. This content needs to change. This message you should not send to this person. And I know how it is to get feedback, especially when it's like, hey, you're not doing this the way that you should be, that it's hard. But
Mhm.
also, I always tell people, I would always rather tell you the truth, even if it hurts a little bit, so that you can improve quicker. And it's coming from a good place,
Yeah,
but
of course.
also like it's gonna get you results quicker, right? And like, I mean, maybe speak to that a little bit. What kind of
Mm.
attitude do you have to adopt when you were getting this feedback to take it in a constructive way and turn it into like results?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, before I signed up, like, I had to kind of already get in that mindset of, like, "Okay,
Good,
what
yeah,
I've been doing is obviously not working. The landscape has changed," as I said, and I really like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to learn, like, how to market and, like, how to speak to people in sales and all these things on top of your coaching, keeping on top of everything, you don't really have time to also learn what the algorithm is doing or, like, what's
yeah,
working for selling to people online. So, I think I just sort of made the decision that, like, I'm gonna try what they suggest, like, and I mean, I'm not gonna say that I liked it every day or that I was, like, feeling good about it every week.
yeah,
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is, like, I always wanna, like, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like this, I try something for 3 days and I'm like, "It's not working, so I need to try something." It's like,
yeah.
and
That's
my
not
coach
gonna
is
work
like,
so much.
"No, no, you're not." And she actually told me like 3 weeks ago, "Do not change anything until you talk to me." Because I just, like, will sometimes be like, "This isn't working. I need to try something new,"
For
which you should
sure.
not do. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I always use the analogy like if you're training for a marathon and if you go for like 3 runs this week and you're like, ah, I'm not improving. It's like, well, you probably shouldn't quit now. You're probably closer to results now than you ever have been. And
Yes.
it's the analogy we often give people. It's kind of like planting a seed, covering it up, watering it, and in 3 days, if you don't see a sprout, you dig it up again. It's like, well, you just needed to give it more time and sun and love and all these different things, and you were going to get there, right?
Yeah.
So you go through this season of like having some doubts, trying some strategies, getting some feedback, starting to operate on things. Let's start talking about the strategies that you started to deploy then at that point. So we started to work on like our mini ads, as we call them here at
Mhm.
CCI. Talk people a little bit through of like how that's been working for you personally.
Yeah, like, I would say that's, like, such a huge game changer if you're like me. I literally stayed at 7,000 for, like, 3 years. Like, I could
Yeah,
not grow my list to, like, and I
yeah,
obviously probably didn't know what to do, but I wasn't growing it organically in any way. So, this is, like, the quickest way to do that, and also to get, like, people who actually are interested in your content because they're seeing that ad and it speaks to them. So, again, you're creating an
yeah,
ad that's, like, directly speaking to your ideal client. So you want to make sure you're clear on that before you do it because
yeah,
otherwise your ad's probably not going to pull in who you
exactly.
want, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, so we worked on that. I think we only did like maybe 2 adjustments, like it went pretty quick because by this point I already knew who my ideal client was, right? And yeah, so I boosted that. I started booking calls like the next week.
yeah.
And it actually, like, some days I got so overwhelmed, I paused the ad, and then my coach was like, "Why are you
Because
doing
there's
that?" And I
too
was
many
like,
followers, too many
yeah,
leads.
I was like, "If there's like 100 people in one day, I just can't respond to them all." So we worked out some strategies of like, we don't have to respond to everyone on the same day, like, some boundaries because for sure you could work all the time in your own business if you wanted to, right? But
Oh, for sure.
but yeah, so I would say like before you do that, like my advice is like it happens so fast and you need to have the skill set to be able to not waste those leads, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's where like before you were like, why am I working on all this foundational stuff? Why do I have to
Mhm,
get? And then as soon as you start to turn on like a mini ad and all this stuff, it's like, oh, this is why. Because
mhm.
the people who have a very general boosted post get a very low amount of followers, and those who have a very specific one get a very high amount of followers, right?
Yeah.
And you having all those skill sets beforehand is just so important because they were just starting to come in. So once you turned it on, you said you got your first call booked in a week. How long did it then take you to like start getting more clients coming in?
Yeah, so I think it was around I worked my first client about 2.5 weeks in,
Yeah,
because, like, the sales calls, I had done them previously, but again, like, they were not as many as, like, this was because this was, like, some days, you have 3 booked, some days none, like, it's really kinda sporadic, and I think that's also really important to know, like, you're gonna have busy weeks and then weeks where it's quieter, and don't think it's not working then just because
yeah,
you kind of have that bit of a roller coaster. But yeah, I booked my first person, yeah, like 2.5 weeks after the ad was booked.
I love that. So basically, we had to do a lot of foundational work, right? We had to do a lot
Mhm.
of like tilling the soil, planting the seeds, watering it all. But then once you started to actually run the mini ad, book calls within a week, within 2.5 weeks, have your first client.
Yeah.
Question for you. When you joined the program, did you think that the strategy would work like that or as well as that or as quick as that? Or what was your kind of like expectation of that?
Yeah, like, I think my hope was like to make back my investment by like month 5. That was like my
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
my goal. And so like and now like I feel like I've already made back my investment now, but
Yeah,
I feel like initially I didn't really know other than I knew it had to work. So I said to my coach, like, we have to make this work. Like one way or the other, it's working. And
yeah.
she was like,
That's
no pressure. So like there was sort of that agreement of like, I'm going to put in the work, but like, I also need you to meet me. And if it's not working, we adjust it. And so I think as long as you come in with that, because it is, you mentioned mindset before, it's so much like
yeah.
it's hard because it's like one week it's good. The next week you're like, no one's responding to me. And then the next week you're like, no, I'm too busy again. So it is this roller coaster for
It
sure.
is a roller coaster, and that's where, like, I always tell people you have to look at more of like a month or even like a 2 month window,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of people, even in our program, they're like, "Oh, I'm not sure if my mini ad is working," and I'm like, "How much did you spend on it?" And they're like, $500, and I'm like, "How much did you make?" $5,000, and I'm like, wouldn't you spend $500 again to make $5,000? And they're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. But like sometimes you have to just zoom out and be like, hey, in the last 4 weeks or 6 weeks, this is what's happened. And yes, I had 2 weeks that were incredible, 2 weeks that felt like duds and whatever it is. But you
Yeah.
have this big strategy that is consistently working over the long period, which is just
Mhm.
so helpful, right? Because now you can predict and see, okay, my next clients are coming from here. You don't have to second guess where my next clients come from. I'm getting these followers coming in. I'm going to have conversations with
Yeah.
them. I know I'm going to book some sales calls, and I know that I will close some of them at some point, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, actually, how does it feel to like know that you have that steady flow coming in for you and your business?
Yeah, like for me, I definitely like security is a big piece of this. And so to
Yeah,
know like again, it took me a while to trust that process. I just had a conversation this morning with my coach of like, yes, I understand. But I think it's important to have other people because when it's so isolating being an entrepreneur in a lot of ways, like you're just kind of on your own. Like being a part of the group, like one, you have the coach, which I think is like great, but also like the connection of other people who are creating a business, like that are at the same place as you. Like you kind of like I naturally kind of gravitated towards people who were like about at the same place as me. And then there's people who are doing really well or people who are doing a bit less than you. But it's
yeah.
nice to kind of have those people to say, like, oh my gosh, is your messaging dead this week? Like, is it just me? And then, and then in the group, it's like 10 people are like, yeah, mine's dead. And then 10 people are like, no, mine's great. And so you kind of see how it just
For sure.
depends. Yeah. On the week,
Well,
your niche, right?
that's why you have community. I mean, that's why we have a community as well, is because
Mhm.
we just know that like when you're around more people who are like you said, a little bit sooner than you, or a little bit further ahead than you, or at the exact same spot, you're able to just have like basically we as humans we're very much our mindsets are attuned to the environment we're in,
Mhm.
right? And if you're in a group of other entrepreneurs who are going after it and they have big goals and they have big dreams and they're putting the work in, you're able to actually go farther together, right? And that's part of the community, and that's why it's so fun, right?
Yes.
So I love that. I know you're having a busy day, so I just want to ask one more question. And folks, if there's any
Sure.
questions, feel free to throw them down below. Last question I just want to ask is, if you could go back to like yourself before joining CCI, now knowing the strategies and even like how you have to get clear on your messaging and all that kind of stuff, if you could go back to the people who are watching this right now or watching this after
Mhm.
the fact, what would be kind of your number one piece of advice for them to help like just jumpstart them from where they are?
Yeah, I think I would just say like that it's two things. I have to say two things. So
That's okay.
one
That's
is
okay.
that like be ready to like do the work, right? Like you
Yeah.
really need to be ready to like if you're just like I'm just going to go in and see what it's like and hope for the best, like no. So you
Yeah.
need to really make sure you're like, okay, whatever they ask me to do, like and then I'm going to trust that process because you're going to see people that are doing way better and you're going to think I'm doing the same things. How are they doing that much better? So you need to like trust the process and use that as like, okay, if it's working for them, they're not special. This is a strategy. It's going to work for me as well. And just trust that
Yeah.
and keep at it.
I love that. And that's such a great answer because when people join a program like ours, due to so many different factors that sometimes we can control and sometimes we can't, Yeah, some people crush it month one. Some people it takes 6 months for them to crush
Mhm.
it. Some people, frankly, well, I was actually just chatting with Cassie, the head coach here at CCI. I think she's your mentor as well
Yeah.
in the program. We see some people on average, they have to like when they re-sign in CCI for the second round is where they have this crazy growth curve, right? Like a lot of people get to their first 10K month, let's say in the first 6 months, but oftentimes in the second 6 months, it has this crazy hockey curve of growth. And it's like it's the long-term planning and thinking, right? Because anything worth having usually doesn't come overnight. It usually doesn't come even in 1 month. But over 6 months, over 12 months, it's actually, in my opinion, it's crazy how fast you can grow in 6 to 12 months if you just don't quit and if you just stick with it,
Yes.
right? So I'm happy you keep bringing up that mindset and expectation because, I mean, as entrepreneurs, we see the shiny objects, we often get distracted. And I think it's so important
Yeah.
that message I'm sharing here today.
Yes, don't be distracted by all the marketing guys that where people say you're gonna make this much money. It's like there is work. People are doing work behind that.
Exactly, exactly. I always like to, and you know what's actually interesting? I'm going on a complete tangent here. Your marketing is actually more believable if you tell people what the negative is before you tell them what the positive is.
Mhm.
Instead of, and this is just free advice. Instead of saying, like in my marketing, instead of being like, hey, let's get you like 20K months with our program, 20K months, or whatever it is. If I say, hey, you know what? It's going to take a lot of hard work. You're going to have to learn a bunch of skills. You're going to have some good days and some bad days. But if you keep with it, with our strategies, we've seen a lot of our clients get to those 20K months in like 6 to 9 to 12 months. It's
Yeah.
much more believable then, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, yeah, you're going to have to make these sacrifices. You're going to have to invest in our program. Like there's all these sacrifices you have to make. But if you want this, we can get there together, right? And it's just more believable that way as far as like marketing goes. So, quick free tip of the day.
Yes. I agree. I agree because I feel like a lot of the other coaches that I was looking at and things, it's like, here's my thing for $12. Like I would look at it and I'd be like, well, how is this gonna like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
totally.
so I feel like if you're really like serious about like wanting to get there, you need, like I said, all the pieces. You can't expect yourself
Yeah,
to be good at like sales and at marketing and right. Like you need someone to help you with those things.
exactly. 100%. Like I said earlier, we're not the cheapest program, but our results aren't cheap either. So, anyways, folks, if you're watching this and you want to hear more about how this program can help you, feel free to reach out to Terry or myself. I know some of you have connected with us on social media. But Meagen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. I'm excited to see you continue to grow. I think this is, I mean, oftentimes when I interview someone like yourself who had your first $12,000 month in January, oftentimes in the next 3 to 4 to 6 months, I'm celebrating that next milestone with them. And so I'm excited for that next milestone where we can celebrate that together as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome, folks. Well, have a great rest of your Thursday. Meagen, thank you so much. And folks, we'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye for now. We'll chat soon.